And we're following breaking news here on CBS Sports HQ. It is a good day to be that man. Georgia coach Kirby Smart cashing in on the national title. The Georgia Bulldogs won last season, according to reports, has agreed to a 10-year, $112.5 million deal. Per reported contracts, Kirby Smart's deal puts him among the highest paid coaches in college football there. Led Georgia to the first national title since 1980, 66-15 in his 6 seasons there in Athens. Finished in the top 7 in the AP poll in each of the last 5 seasons. Let's welcome in Danny Kannell here to CBS Sports HQ. Man, Danny, we went into the wrong line of business. It's a good day to be Kirby Smart. What do you think about the deal?
I think it was just a matter of time before this happened. I mean, this is a coach that just knocked Nick Saban from his perch in the national championship game, and Nick Saban is widely regarded as, the greatest coach of our generation. So I think it was just a matter of time. There had been rumblings that this was going to come out, that it was going to be, 10+ million a year. So I'm not surprised at all about it. And it's a commitment from Georgia to say, you know what? We see what you've done. I mean, when Kirby Smart was hired, Amanda, he was brought there to build Alabama East of the SEC East. And he's done that, winning 4 division titles, going to the national championship, coming up just short 1 year. And then, of course, winning it this past season. I think it was only a matter of time before we saw this deal. And it's crazy to say this, Amanda, but it's kind of the going rate if you're one of the top coaches in college football.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds pricey. I don't know if Nick Saban is now going to look at a pay bump. I mean, how does this now set the table for other head coaches who are finding success?
Nick Saban, no doubt, will get a pay bump because of this, and just knowing how Alabama works. And I believe it's even in his contract where he has to be, right up there with the top 3 annual average value of the highest paid head coaches. So I wouldn't be shocked if you see Nick Saban get a new deal sometime soon. But this is a trend we've seen, and it's kind of funny because I've always wondered, hey, does this bubble burst? And now that we're seeing NIL deals and players able to get more money directly from boosters and collectives, would we see a tapering off of the coaches' salaries? And I think this is a clear sign that no. And I also think it just shows you how much money is in the sport of college football and how just it's grown exponentially over time. When I played at Florida State, it was a big deal that Bobby Bowden was making $1 million a year. I mean, that was 20 years ago. I'm old, but I'm not that old. And it's crazy how fast it's grown over time. But I think this will be more the norm. The bigger schools at the top tier programs, Ryan Day just got a new deal. Jim Harbaugh's up in this vicinity. Jimbo Fisher will be up here when he reworks his deal if they want to do that. It's just $10 million a year is probably going to be the going rate for a top 10, top 15 coach. And a lot of this is about a commitment to the coach. But it's also they're able to do this because they're not paying the players directly as employees. They got to spend the money somewhere. They get these massive payouts from the conferences. You should give it to the guy who's the head of the program, and he's the CEO of the Georgia Bulldogs, who are one of the biggest brands in college football. So I'd say he's worth every penny, Amanda, if not even underpaid, still making that much money.
Kirby Smart is 46 years old, 66-15 in his 6 seasons there at Georgia thus far. How much does this keep the Bulldogs in the national title conversation over the next several years now?
I mean, they weren't going anywhere as it was. I know they had 5 guys drafted in the first round, and there's some, consternation of, are they going to be back in the national championship game playing against Bama again? Can they repeat? They're not going anywhere, but I think this really does solidify Kirby's future there for the long term, which probably in where it matters most is recruiting, where you can say, look, you can come here and there's going to be no doubt who your coach is going to be. And that is a tactic that, other schools use all the time. Hey, and even crazier is what we saw this past offseason, when we saw coaches at established brand name programs like Notre Dame and Brian Kelly and like Lincoln Riley, I'm sorry, man, at Oklahoma, but we saw them jump ship and say, I'm going to take another job. And so I think that has been a tactic that, hey, what if a coach leaves? And maybe he leaves at Georgia, but with this type of contract, there's absolutely zero concern. So it's just a commitment and just a kind of reiteration that Kirby Smart's our guy for the long term. So there's zero question for any recruits. And they can only play 4 years, Amanda. So I guess they're telling this message to 7th and 8th graders who they're extending offers to that are going to be possibly in the mix 8 and 9 years down the road.
Hey, you know they're targeting those kids already there. So you mentioned long term. I want to touch on that. Nick Saban is going to be 71 years old this season. Kirby Smart is 46. He's already made such a name for himself. He does have that national championship. That is something that we have not seen from Brian Kelly or Lincoln Riley thus far. When Nick Saban finally decides to hang it up, because at some point that's going to happen, is Kirby Smart now just not only the face of the SEC, but almost of college football when it comes to coaching?
Absolutely. I mean, he's already top 3, I would say, coaches. I mean, Jimbo Fisher might have something about it to say about it. Having won a championship at LSU and at Florida State as well. But he's absolutely right there. And where the consistency with which they've won, there has been hardly any drop off whatsoever. They really haven't had a down year. I think he's firmly implanted himself. And considering he played there, what he means to Georgia, the fact that he's only 46, I think some Georgia fans are probably thinking, hey, we said we are going to build Alabama East. Why don't we try to knock off Nick Saban in those championships that he won in Tuscaloosa? Let's see how many we can bring here to Georgia, which is a blessing and a curse, because once that bar is set, that's the bar that the fans want to keep up. But now Kirby doesn't have to worry about being on any hot seats anytime soon.
So that was my question, though. With that bar being set so high, I mean, Nick Saban, has 6 national championships there at Alabama. Kirby Smart just has the one. I mean, it's phenomenal. It's the one right now. He's been there 6 seasons so far. If that success starts falling off somewhat, I mean, how much pressure is on him now to find another natty and to keep that up?
Well, I guarantee you, if you ask Kirby that question, he would say there's always pressure on me. I'm an SEC coach, and he's right. But I do think, I mean, this is a program that has run off winning coaches before, including Mark Richt before him, who was always in the conversation, but unfortunately for Mark Richt, couldn't get it done. This national championship does buy him a lot of time. I mean, that's without question. He gets that in his resume, and I think Georgia fans look at him differently. But we've seen the SEC part ways with coaches after they've won national championships before. Gene Chizik at Auburn, Ed Ogeron at LSU. You have to maintain that standard, but it's really hard to see any weaknesses in Georgia. The recruiting has not dropped off at all. They kind of start stacking those guys at different positions where, yes, you lose a lot of guys, but here comes more 4 and 5 stars. I don't think Kirby Smart has anything to be worried about anytime soon. Again, if you saw back-to-back 8-win seasons, I think he'd be worried, but I don't foresee that happening anytime soon in Athens.
Danny Kannell, the Georgia Bulldogs, not the favorite this season, but we know they will be up there. We appreciate it. Taking a look at the highest paid coaches now with Kirby Smart there in the mix, getting this huge pay bump, 10 years, $112.5 million. Lincoln Riley just behind him, Brian Kelly. But Danny's saying, don't be surprised if we see one Nick Saban getting a little pay bump soon. Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.